Can you explain something to me then in relation to circular economy? How does that differ sustainability? When we talk about sustainability and sustainable materials, isn't that one of the same?
Of course, it's intrinsically linked. And it is a part of sustainability. I'm not brave enough to say that it's not. It is. Yeah. But it's also more. Okay? So I think when you look at the interconnectivity between, I would call it resource use and circular economy. So for example, many of the listeners would have heard of the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Yeah. They put sustainability into 10 topics. So climate, biodiversity, water, pollution, and resource use and circular economy in the environmental, and then in the S, own workforce, workers in the value chain, affected communities, and consumers and end users. And then finally, governance. But if you look at, so it is in there in EU legislation, it's got its own topical standard as a core component of sustainability. But unlike some of the others, it's intrinsically linked with the others. Yeah. And in fact, they're all somewhat connected, but I think that circular is intrinsically connected with all of them. Because if you take climate, so classic example, 45% of all greenhouse gas emissions comes from how we extract and how we produce. Within the built environment, if the built environment is responsible for 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, 10%, well, actually 1/3 of that 30% is actually extraction and things. Okay, so huge climate issue. Embodied carbon is a consequence of materials. Biodiversity, 90% of biodiversity loss is from, again, how we extract and how we manufacture. Water in itself is a resource. So actually water in itself could also sit in circular economy because of what it is. And of course, and how we manufacture and how we produce is what causes pollution in the first place. So our behavior with materials, or relationship with materials, how we use materials, domino effects into all of those. And then over on the S, by the way, or the forgotten cousin of sustainability, which is changing, by the way, is now becoming the big brother, right? It's growing up quickly. Workers in the value chain is intrinsically linked to, again, how we extract and how we produce. So ultimately, how we extract, how we produce our relationship materials is, I think, the common denominator across not all of it, but most of it. Yes, there's this being kind of naive understanding out there that it's this kind of fluffy paradigm sitting out over here, because, and in fairness, a lot of these entities that have been really driving the agenda, of course, they're correct to do so, and the fantastic institutions, but I still struggle then, as working in a technical organization, that very clever people still don't see the connection sometimes. And then just final point. So you said, that it's linked with sustainability. It is. But then over here, on the other side, let's say if you saw circular as the sustainability element and then economy as the economic element, it is about value because materials, you can weigh it. It has a cost.
It's measurable, right?
And there are business models that can maximize that value proposition. But if we focus purely on the sustainability agenda, yes, it's nice to do, but there's got to be a value proposition for it really to escalate. Hence, the economic element is just as important. So I would say it sits in the middle, but fundamental to the sustainability agenda, but much more.
But to achieve a real circular world, we need a huge shift in consumerism and how we're actually buying, procuring, what our needs and